Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Earlier today, at the Nashville airport, Dr. Rand Paul, a senator from Kentucky and the son of Dr. Ron Paul, was subjected to a treatment that is a mixture of the abhorrent and the absolutely inane. He went through one of the Transportation Security Administration scanners, and the scanner essentially malfunctioned. It detected an anomaly on his leg, where in fact there was nothing there that would give the TSA any cause for suspicion. So Dr. Rand Paul showed them his leg, and they clearly saw there was nothing there. He offered to go through the scanner again. The TSA screeners at that checkpoint did not let him go through. They insisted that he must undertake a full-body pat-down. When he refused to undertake the pat-down, asserting his inalienable dignity as a human being, he was escorted out of the airport after being detained for about 2 hours. And then, when they allowed him to go back through, the scanner of the same manufacturer as the scanner that exhibited the anomaly didn't respond at all. And he was cleared to go through, and he was cleared to proceed with his flight. So, a U.S. senator was needlessly hassled and detained in excess of 2 hours because a machine malfunctioned. Now, at first when I heard this story, and I was not able to access a lot of details, I thought, this may be politically motivated on the part of the TSA, because Rand Paul is such a vocal proponent of limited government and a critic of the Obama administration. However, Senator Paul has denied any possibility that this was politically motivated, and I believe him. If he says he experienced no trace of a political attack on him, then that's most likely what happened. However, there's another lesson to be drawn from this incident, and that is the absolute inanity of the security theater that the TSA has put up. What is the probability that a U.S. senator is going to commit an act of terrorism against the United States? I can tell you exactly what that probability is, and this is my informed scientific opinion. 0%. 0.0 repeating %. There is no likelihood at all that a U.S. senator would be a terrorist. So why in the world did the TSA spend over 2 hours, and when you count the combined efforts of all of its staff, it's many more than 2 man-hours, searching and detaining and hassling a U.S. senator? Well, some might assert it's to treat everyone equally, using equal standards. First of all, my response to that would be it's a kind of perverse egalitarianism. Make everyone suffer the same way just because some people might be terrorists, and as a result you inconvenience and humiliate people who most clearly are not terrorists. This kind of perverse egalitarianism, unfortunately, pervades the mindsets of many bureaucracies in the United States at the federal level, as well as, unfortunately, many Americans who need to learn a better way to think. But it's even worse than that. It's not just that it's a perversely egalitarian system. It's furthermore a system that actively harms the very people it is intended to protect. The fact is, the overwhelming majority of travelers are not terrorists, and that's an understatement. But, literally, millions and tens of millions of their hours are being wasted because of the TSA. Their dignity is being stripped because of the TSA. Children are being molested because of the TSA. Cancer patients and elderly women are being subjected to unspeakable degradation and humiliation because of the TSA. colostomy bags are bursting because of the TSA, because of how it mishandles people with chronic illnesses. Seriously, this humiliation of the young, of the sick, of the elderly, and of everyone else is a travesty. It is not in line with any human or humane set of moral principles. It is, I think, the very embodiment of immorality and evil to treat human beings in that way. And it's all because of the terrible incentives built into the system. The fact is, common sense is absent from the TSA. Reason is absent from the TSA. Prudent discretion is absent from the TSA. Why in the world can't a screener at that post, who is a human being, have the ability to make the decision, this person can't possibly be a terrorist, he's a US senator, or this person can't possibly be a terrorist, he's a frequent traveler whom I've seen at this airport many, many times. Why in the world is that not a prerogative that any human being with a brain ought to have? And furthermore, why in the world is the federal government handling security at airports when it has failed so miserably over the past 11 years? There has not been a shred of evidence that the efforts of the TSA, despite inconveniencing tens of millions of travelers, have caught a single terrorist. There is zero evidence of that. Every time there was an attempted terrorist attack, be it Richard Reed, the shoe bomber, or Abdul Muttalab, the infamous underwear bomber, other passengers caught him, not the TSA. The efforts of private citizens are what can increase genuine security, not the TSA. So why not leave security where it belongs, in the hands of private citizens? As Thomas Jefferson put it, the price of liberty is eternal vigilance. If passengers on a plane spot an individual who's clearly trying to attack people with box cutters or trying to detonate an explosive, then they have shown to have the ability to prevent that. Why not also allow airlines to arm their pilots and arm their attendants with non-lethal weapons that can debilitate individuals who show a motivation to commit an act of terrorism? It would be much less expensive, it would be much more effective, and it would be much less humiliating. I think this encounter by Senator Rand Paul has the potential to again galvanize the public discussion about these humiliating, intrusive invasions of liberty and privacy that millions of Americans have to face every day. The fact is, there, unfortunately, has come to be a kind of acclimatization to what the TSA has been doing. In late 2010, after John Tyner's courageous defiance of the TSA's groping pat-downs, there was a kind of upswell of popular resentment. But since then, unfortunately, it has quieted down, and many travelers have just acquiesced and found this to be routine, like a frog in boiling water. If the temperature is ramped up little by little, and the frog puts up with every incremental increase, eventually the frog gets boiled, but the frog doesn't even notice it that much. So it is with these travelers. They see it as an inconvenience. They don't like it by any stretch of the imagination. But many of them are subject to very erroneous and very insidious patterns of thinking. One such pattern of thinking is, oh, it's just a little more inconvenient than it was yesterday, and if I put up with it yesterday, I'll put up with it today. So what? The immediate destination is more important to them. Another far worse way of thinking is that this is somehow a necessary evil, that this somehow works in some way to protect people against this imagined threat of terrorism. And don't get me wrong, terrorist attacks have occurred, but the likelihood of it happening to any given individual is so small, it is infinitesimal. It is smaller than the probability of being killed by a lightning strike. Furthermore, if you're really worried about your safety, worry about getting into an automobile accident. Worry about getting cancer from an unhealthy habit like smoking. That kills so many more people than terrorists ever will. And yet, we see the federal government pouring loads of money, loads of resources, and so many man-hours into this futile task of deterring terrorist attacks that probably wouldn't have happened anyway. And if a determined enough terrorist tried to perpetrate one of these attacks, then all of these safeguards would be completely useless. Do you want to stop terrorism? I certainly would. But the way to do that is to adopt a more prudent foreign policy, as Dr. Ron Paul recommends within his presidential campaign. It is the foreign policy advocated by the American founders. As Thomas Jefferson put it, peace, commerce, and honest friendship with all nations, entangling alliances with none. That's what it takes to end terrorism against the United States. That's what it takes. Because by having a foreign policy that focuses on the good connections we can build with other countries without embroiling ourselves in their internecine struggles that American presence cannot resolve and will often only exacerbate. By focusing on the good and standing apart from the bad, we cease being a target. Cease being a target for people like the recently deceased Osama bin Laden and Al-Qaeda, who, while they were terrible people, while they committed heinous acts, clearly laid out their motives, which were to essentially resist American military presence in places like Saudi Arabia and later on the American incursion of Iraq and Afghanistan. So if the United States were to stop doing that, then not only would the terrorists not be in this country and not be attacking us, but we would all be much freer. We would be free to board a plane without any hassles, just like we were able to before September 11th of 2001. And we would be able to lead our lives without feeling and fearing this oppressive weight of the federal Leviathan. That's the kind of world we need to live in. And Ron Paul and Rand Paul advocate such a world. Let's hope that the inconvenience that Dr. Rand Paul was subjected to is not forgotten. And let's hope that we can all learn some lessons from it about just how far down the road of totalitarianism this country has gone, and just how imperative it is for us to reverse it. Thank you very much.